Awesome. Hey guys, thanks so much for having me today. I totally forgot to wear my Hawkeyes hoodie. I actually love Iowa City. I used to spend a lot of time there in college. My girlfriend went to Iowa City or to the University of Iowa. So I had many great weekends making the trip back and forth. And I hope to be back someday in person. Um, I am Andrew Schmitz. I am an entrepreneur from Appleton, Wisconsin. So about 6 hours northeast from you guys. Today, I am presenting as the co-founder of Proceed.app. Proceed.app is a cross-platform visual knowledge sharing app. Basically, small businesses use us to create standard operating procedures, training materials, safety instructions, work guides, um, other forms of knowledge management using photos and videos. So the best way, to kind of really get the point across is a side-by-side comparison. So this is what we're helping, our app helps a lot of small to medium-sized businesses create. Basically, on the left-hand side is a standard operating procedure that you'd find in a typical wood shop. And on the right-hand side is a workflow inside of Proceed, obviously using that nice visual where you can thoroughly show someone exactly what to do in step-by-step bite-sized photos and videos. So this is kind of really what we do. We work in a couple industries, but our two best customers are either manufacturing companies or food service businesses. But really, we work with any business that depends on hands-on knowledge. You're sending employees out into the field or onto the floor, and humans are doing things with their hands. To give you kind of an idea of where we are as a company, we launched our platform in January. So we welcomed our early adopters as beta users. And then we began generating revenue in April, but we're still considering ourselves pre-launch as we have a couple features, critical features, not critical, but features that we want to roll out before we officially launch. So I'm always happy to share more about our product and the company. If you guys have questions on that, always happy to answer that during the Q&A. But for 1 Million Cups, I really like to touch on the journey, how we got to where we are today, and what made me to found Proceed.app. So getting started, I've always been a visual learner, and I always love creating products for people, and with the goal of providing some value in people's lives. But my visual learning preference has both been a challenge and a blessing, right? Challenge, obviously, things in school have been never fun when it was all text and reading assignments. But as a blessing, my visual learning preference has really been a guiding light through my career. It's really helped me find my career in forming ways or making ways of creating visual information more accessible to people. So in 2016, I was working for a software company, and I started a side hustle because I always knew I wanted to work for myself. And basically what I was doing is I would go on site at businesses and create different kinds of training systems for them, either training videos, private training websites. But my specialty that I got known for was using a lot of visuals, with either photos or videos. But basically, I was known for going in and creating visual-based knowledge sharing. I was doing this very manually. So I would deliver them, a client would come on board and I'd deliver them what we promised. But it involved me going on site with my camera and taking photos and videos myself. Eventually, I ran out of vacation time though, so I couldn't do more of these. And I had a big client come up that I just didn't have enough time to serve. So instead of me going on site, what we did was arrange for the employees at the business to take photos and videos and send them to me via text and email. And it was a lot to manage, but it worked pretty well. It was, at least they were really happy, and I was also happy that I could serve them, but it wasn't going to scale, and it wasn't going to be obviously the end all for us. So one day I was sitting at home and I was Snapchatting with some friends, and taking a little break, and I realized, wow, Snapchat is an incredible visual platform for communicating what you're doing with visuals. And there's some really creative things you can do on it. You can mark up photos, you can add captions. So I thought to myself and kind of had this light bulb moment that, maybe I could get the clients that I was working with to Snapchat me content and add their captions on it and mark things up. And that'd be way easier for me to manage. So we did it. I took a private Snapchat account, invited them, showed them how to upload content to a story. And then every night before the content expired, I'd log in and download all the content. And so we really realized that we had kind of an opportunity here. I did this with 2 or 3 clients, and then decided, maybe we should make the leap. So, I weighed a few metrics in my life. I was already getting paid for this kind of model that we were developed, which was a good, indicator that we're heading down the right path. So I weighed a few metrics in my life, like health insurance, my savings. At the time I had very little liabilities. So in March of 2019, I quit my job. And so I started Proceed.app in May after finding a development team. We spent all of the summer building a prototype that we tested with our alpha users. Over the fall, we built our actual production environment that we're in today. And like I mentioned earlier, we launched our platform in January with some amazing early adopters that we were fortunate enough to work with. So today we are, sorry about that. Today we're growing Proceed.app. Basically we're working on our scaling and our digital sales process, which has been a huge learning curve for me as someone who didn't come from a sales background. So our ideal customers are small businesses that have big goals or need to work their way through some kind of major change. And the change can be, scaling, streamlining operations, maybe they're pivoting as a company, mergers and acquisitions, and succession planning. Unfortunately for us, there's a lot of change going on today. So when we cross paths with a company that has a big goal in mind and depends on knowledge or work that is dependent on employees using their hands, it seems to be a really great fit. So if this is what your training looks like, or if you know someone who depends on binders and manuals like this, and they're interested in seeing, what a visual knowledge platform could do to their business, we would absolutely love to talk with them about transitioning into Proceed.app. But with that, guys, I'm happy to answer any questions. I'd also love your feedback. And yeah, thanks again for having me today, guys.
Cool. Any questions?
I think this sounds like a really interesting product and something that some of our investor companies here locally would be interested in. What kind of companies are you working with currently, or have you not started really the formal relationships yet?
So we, in terms of our customers, you're asking?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, so we work with a variety of manufacturing companies as well as food service businesses. We also are getting into franchises. So one of our biggest customers is actually a franchise out of California. They install IoT devices into people's homes. So they use our system to train their technicians on how to install those products. Yeah, so those are, any really kind of business that depends on hands-on knowledge. And we were focused mainly on small to medium-sized businesses. But however, we've recently, within the last 3 weeks, just quoted 2 publicly traded companies. So we're not narrowly focused on small businesses anymore.
I was just going to suggest that I've tried using these Adobe Classroom in a books for various Adobe platforms, and I have found them absolutely brutal to follow. Their instructions are dried out to the extreme, and I can't help but think that visual instructions for that might work a lot better. Um, I don't know if anyone's working on that or not, but that came to mind immediately when I heard you talking about how to change a saw blade. Any instructions they have would be more complicated, but might be all the more reason to go with visual knowledge.
Yeah, we actually work with a few companies that use us to document like computer processes. However, we're not necessarily the best fit for that. I'm assuming that's what you mean by Adobe Classroom. Um, so we're because you still would have to take the screenshots like on your computer and then upload them. And for many people, it's using us for distribution of the content, but we don't really help with the creation on that side. Whereas if you're documenting a physical process, like in your manufacturing company, it's super easy to get our app out and shoot photos and videos using our app with no file management or anything like that. But yeah, I agree with you. Visuals, when it comes to instructions on software, are always helpful.
Do you have any competitors or people you've identified as potential competitors?
Yeah, absolutely. So the knowledge management space is actually pretty flooded. And that was one of the things that almost prevented us from developing our product. However, what we noticed was a lot of these competitors are really good at serving businesses that depend on desk-bound employees. So a few like Lessonly is a what we could consider a competitor, but again, they're really great at serving like those computer processes or sales type jobs. And actually, I recommend them to people that come to us looking to train people in the office. Because we can't compete with Lessonly. They have a really great product. Other ones include Trainual, but other products that are more visual and specific towards manufacturing. Like one example is a company called VKS or Convergence Training. They are very expensive and very enterprise, which is it turns off a lot of small businesses. So that's really where we fit in, is serving small businesses that don't want to necessarily have to hire a knowledge manager for their knowledge management system.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I was thinking, you were talking that you're already in manufacturing, correct? Yeah, one thing you have to look into is manufacturing. There's a lot of manufacturing which is simply assembly of products, in which there is the necessity to, change tools or to set the tools according to the different batch. And sometimes in this type of industries, you have a lot of people that are, there's a high turnover. No? So it's interesting. I was the general manager of a company over here in Iowa. So I had this difficulty because, people coming in and, you have to have, people all the time that show how things have to be done. The only thing that I would suggest also, I don't see it, maybe you do it, but I don't see it. I would highlight also the, visual learning is something, at least for me, it's something that works better, with respect to other things. But you should correlate also how much, you economize, how much the cost effectiveness of doing this with respect to, having a supervisor or someone that's always available, to show. And also from a quality standpoint, because you have that. Today there is always docking stations. There always a computer available on the production line. Even in the small industries, so you always have the possibility to access these videos. It would be interesting to have, like, at least when you talk to the, to the manufacturing to the operation to show them that, in effect, it's not simply another application, but that there is a cost effectiveness globally.
Absolutely, yeah. 65, like there's at least a few reports have said 65% of us are visual learners and
Yeah.
prefer that method of information or learning new things. So it definitely is the case. We did one internal like case study, basically had a task. We gave one person a actually a training video that was long form, so it was about 5 minutes long. Then we gave them a Proceed workflow, which is the step-by-step bite size. And the process took 15 minutes with the long form video and 3 minutes with the workflow in our app. So even our format of breaking it up into bite-sized pieces has proven effective. Of course, we don't have mass research or scaled across. Our data points are really low as of today, but in the couple of experiments that we've done, we've seen some really great results. But thank you for the feedback on the.
I see there's, I'm not sure if it's, but just, thinking about it, good opportunity or good possibility also to use something like this, to research in how people are doing it, So, you're talking about the video, which is the correct way of doing it, but you also have the possibility maybe to, through the application, I don't know, to see how a person is doing it and see if he's doing it good, or if it's, if you find maybe different ways to improve from a handling point of view of the different, objects or tools that he's using or something like that.
Yeah, that's a good point. We have, and again, this presentation wasn't very heavy on our product, so I apologize for that, and maybe should have put more details in. But one of the things that have made us popular with small businesses is our crowdsourcing functions. So this is a concept that you as a manager can outline what you want the employee to document, and then you can actually assign the documentation process over to a rockstar employee who's maybe been taking care of that machine or opening the shop for 10 years and just knows it like the back of their hand. So they can actually use their phone to create the documentation and then submit it back to management for review and approval. So that's all built into our system today. The other things that we've been approached by a couple OEMs for using this on how to create operational instructions, kind of a replacement or an alternative to a user manual. And what they're interested in is actually getting the analytics on how people use their documentation. And then also, our system provides insight into what users are looking for. So if your users are looking for something and it comes back with no results, you get a breakdown on like what your users are actually looking for, so you can create documentation based on the stuff that you don't have today. So that's also kind of an interesting insight, especially for OEMs. But it's good to hear that you also think that, because we haven't done too much in that space yet, in terms of like OEMs and also really crowdsourcing. A lot of our companies end up having a manager create the content themselves.
Andrew, this is Matt Arnold, and a lot of my career I've done knowledge management work, so excited to see what you're saying, and especially the visual side. And so thanks, because Liz's question kind of provoked one of the things I was like, what was your insight to differentiate? So I appreciate that. And then just building on what Alfonso said too is on the basically any time where scheduling and uptime is important to show how you can benefit the business with uptime. And I think one of the things I was wondering about as you were talking, just mentioning a little bit more detail, is almost credentialing or micro credentialing for workforces within a business, that this person knows this, almost like badges. So what they know, because in some manufacturing environments too, there's more of a tiered like are they qualified to work this machinery, and how that might supplement curriculum. And then was wondering also too about like IKEA and others, like again, that, like you said, that trying to, as I look at a desk I had to assemble in my office, right? And how does this piece really go? Because the pseudo three-dimensional elements in instruction manuals aren't that strong. So just when you showed that saw blade, I'm like, it could show all those trigger points where customers get thrown off. So I loved hearing your analytics side, like what are customers really looking for? What language do they use when they're searching for that task, and what might be the choke points in that process?
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for all that. And so I guess one of the things, I mean, with the whole credentialing thing, it gets us into more learning management versus knowledge management, which we kind of have plans to go into the learning management side eventually. But today we're kind of sticking with what we're good at, which is just getting people the knowledge when they need it,
Yep.
versus training people for future, work,
Cool.
I guess. But yeah, I agree with you. I think, credentials and stuff could be really, really powerful addition to our system. Thanks,
Right
Matt.
on. Yeah, and congratulations on making the leap.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
I think that this is a great product as well. You had mentioned you're not a salesperson. There was a presentation recently for a company out of Kansas City called Vendux that helps startups kind of like yours with a part-time director of sales or a vice president of sales or what have you. But they're kind of a job share where they work with multiple companies. And it sounds like if that is something, it's ven-dux.org. It's also kind of an impressive management system. So if you are looking for something in that area, they could really help develop that sales part of your business, which is crucial.
Absolutely, yeah. So thank you for that, because that is something that crosses my mind relatively frequently.
And it's kind of nice to have the option for a third party that has had years and years of sales experience. A lot of these guys are doing this in their autumn years, that they've got tons of experience and connections and just kind of do it as a hobby.
Love that. Yeah. No, I'm going to check that out. Thank you.
And this reminds me of Tasty, but for businesses. It kind of cracks me up because I love the Tasty videos because I get very excited when they make it look so easy to prepare a meal.
It'd be pretty cool if we could get that multiple 1MC presenter synergy thing going on. That'd be awesome. Cool. Any other questions?
Yeah, Andrew. Yeah, great presentation. I just went out to your website here. It looks really nice and clean. So my question is, what would you say to the company that's thinking, why can't I just make something on a YouTube? Why can't we just do this on a YouTube channel? Well, why would your product be more advantageous than that?
Yeah, absolutely. If someone says that to me, usually I say, then do it. Because like if you have the technical skills to kind of figure that out, the logistics, which I know it's not difficult. I mean, I used to do this for other people all the time. It's totally a good way, a free way of getting knowledge to the right people at the right time. However, like what makes us and really any knowledge management system like valuable are the distribution tactics that we lay in place so that you can actually protect your content so it's not just floating out there on the internet. And then also for us, it's the crowdsourcing ability. So this ability to be able to quickly make revisions to content, keep track of your revisions, make content easily accessible. Also the optimization side. So like I said, knowing what you should be creating and adding to your knowledge library versus just, YouTube won't give you any kind of feedback on that. So there's a few like things that, we have that do make us better than a YouTube video. But for many businesses, YouTube is perfect. And to that, I think that's awesome. I love lean businesses. So if you can make free YouTube work, that's awesome. Does that kind of answer your question? I know it sometimes is kind of brutal, but to be honest, I've had so many people. We get into the sales process and then they ask me that, and it's like, then why are you here? you know. So
What does your pricing structure look like?
yeah, it's a great question, and to be brutally honest, it changes almost every week as we kind of test out our price point. So for small businesses, single location businesses, it's $39 a month or $399 a year. So we give a 2-month discount on all of our monthly rates if you pay annually. So that's up to 49 employees, which actually, that's pretty much most small businesses fall into that bucket. What we do though is if you add on like some premium features like public sharing. So if you want to be able to share content to people without an account in your organization, that is an additional monthly cost. And then other premium features like single sign-on, white labeling, those kind of things. Although white labeling, we're going to be moving into our just included base rate. So yeah, it's this week we're at $39 a month.
And if you think about it, how much time people are having to spend making these instruction manuals for things and calculate, hourly wage of, what that time is worth. It seems like this is definitely competitive. How easy is it to, if your procedure changes somewhat, how easy is it to swap things out and change text and that sort of thing?
Yeah, absolutely. So basically you build a centralized library, and if you need to make a revision on something, you check something out, it pulls it to your account or to your draft area where you can make revisions. And you can either decide, do you leave it in the library as is, and then it just flags it as, there's a revision being worked on so that everyone who accesses it knows that there's something changing. Or, you can pull it out of the library too if it's a safety concern or something.
Is this something you go to a business and say, hey, train your workers on, or is it more going to the manufacturer or the design company and saying, here, have this to go out to your customers so that they have a great experience initially?
That's a great question. We want to get into more OEM or serving OEM. So that would be, working with the manufacturer of whatever they're and creating user manuals with our product that their customers can access. But we haven't quite figured out that model yet. So today, our biggest customers are internal knowledge management. So you're using it to create your own knowledge base to train your employees and support your employees. However, you can also support your customers with it too. Sometimes, basically, you can create a private library, which is just internal, and then a public library, which you can have out in the open. You can share with your customers or whoever else needs to access it.
Okay. Have you considered on the smaller company side, then, have you considered going to nonprofit organizations and essentially getting the volunteer training put on that to really take the time off of volunteer trainers?
That's a great question as well. We did some local work with there's an organization here called Volunteer Fox Cities, and they connected us with a few organizations. The hardest part with them is just getting the content built. So I think we just haven't found yet a organization with someone who's excited about building out an automated training or just a better training platform for their volunteers. But I agree. I mean, I've volunteered for different organizations, and you spend about, an hour, 2 hours, sometimes depending on what you're doing, training, learning what you're doing before ever getting any work done. So I personally would love to see, um, almost like a pre-training that you can track, make sure everyone went through the training before coming on site to volunteer. I think that'd be really cool application, but we haven't really had much success with it yet. But if you know someone, I'd love to chat.
I know a few people in a couple different things. In fact, there's one, a former presenter from 1MC who did, what is her business? It was essentially a way to communicate with all your volunteers and sort of have a hub to get them their training. So having this as an integration may actually be a useful thing for them.
Yeah.
So I'll think on that and I'll get in touch with you after this.
Perfect. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Any other questions? Not hearing any. I guess I've got one. So now that you've made the leap to full time and this thing is rolling along, what are the biggest 3 things you want to get done in the next year, and why?
That's a great question. So we today our focus is on developing out and solidifying our digital sales process. So we just brought in a pay-per-click expert who's helping us optimize and get our systems all figured out. So that is one big challenge, is we need to get that done. And then that will lead to hopefully what is our next challenge, which is raising our seed round.
Okay.
So more details to come on that. But you said 3, but those are probably my 2 biggest that I really care about right now.
Nice. Cool.
I got just a quick question, just kind of about the Appleton entrepreneurial ecosystem. Do you feel like you have the available resources, mentorship, and everything that you need to successfully launch this business in your area?
That's a great question. Are you with an economic development corporation in Iowa City or something? That's really,
What can we do to get you here?
Yeah.
Her logo is not behind her right now.
Honestly, it's something I'm really passionate about. So I'm actually an organizer of 1 Million Cups Appleton.
Nice.
And this week is Startup Wisconsin Week. And so I totally forgot about that when I scheduled this. But I'm missing out on our own Startup Wisconsin Appleton 1 Million Cups today. But the other organizers are taking care of it and they're in good hands. But to answer your question about the entrepreneurial ecosystem, I mean, there's always things that I wish we had, wish could be better. And I do get my energy sometimes by going to more entrepreneurial hubs, I guess, like Madison for us, which is about a 2-hour drive from me. It, has that entrepreneurial spirit, that energy. They have a literal building that you can go in and sit at, and you're guaranteed to run into another entrepreneur. So I see the vision for Appleton. I want to be a part of building that. But I will say this as well. We've had some really incredible entrepreneurs come before us that have done some really cool things about Appleton. And there are definitely other entrepreneurs here. It's just how many rocks do you have to pick up to find them? So we have a cool initiative. There's a 33 county basically Chamber of Commerce called New North up here that's leading a initiative called the New North Launch Alliance, which is all about figuring out the early stage of our entrepreneurial ecosystem. But we do have some really cool things going. Like there's a founder circle about 30 minutes north of here in Green Bay that I'm a part of. And there's different kind of networking events and stuff to go to. In terms of fundraising, I actually think that like financial resources, I think that Wisconsin maybe has too much like financial resources for what people are needing, which maybe I'm wrong about, but basically the challenge here is like a lot of entrepreneurs, including myself a year ago, if you would have asked me, don't understand the fundraising process. And like maybe you guys have it too in Iowa, but there's this certain like conservative mindset, that I think a lot of Midwesterns have, including myself, that it's like, well, why would I need to raise money? I can do this myself kind of approach, where, really, if you're the right business to raise money, it can do amazing things to your growth and get you somewhere a lot faster than bootstrapping. That's kind of a big, long answer to your question, but I think like, the entrepreneurial ecosystem does exist. It's just, there's like everything work to be done.
Absolutely. I mean, it's an always constant evolution. We happen to be in the process of remapping and just kind of solidifying on what our current entrepreneurial ecosystem is, especially post-COVID. It changes all the time. So, but then there's those pillars that don't move. So yeah, that was a great answer. And I love the 33 county chamber. That sounds like something that we should look into.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of interesting because actually, if you ask me, I think that they'll play a good role in connecting the entrepreneurial ecosystem with corporations in our area, and that they do a really good job at that. But what Appleton and like a lot of communities in the Fox Cities need are more like community-centric hubs for entrepreneurs to meet. I mean, the question I always ask people is like, and maybe you guys have an answer in Iowa City, but like, where do you go in Iowa City, or in our case in Appleton, to meet other entrepreneurs? Like, if you just want to be around them, like in Appleton, no one has an answer. And so like that, to me, being someone who was born and raised here, like I want to change that. I want to have some spot or some group that people go to when you want to just be around other entrepreneurs, people working on cool things.
That's actually where we've been successful over the last, I would say, 10 years, on where our local economic development group, instead of looking for the companies to come into our area, we were looking to how we could grow our own ecosystem and kind of build our companies from the ground up for better quality paying jobs and all of that. So as part of our initiative for the economic development, we've got a co-working space, which also works as kind of a semi-incubator. We're not an official incubator, but we definitely provide all the resources and camaraderie. We host 1 million cups with our community organizers. So it's just...
Where in Iowa City is that? I'm curious.
It's right downtown, across from, let's see, I don't know when the last time you were here, right across from the Sheridan Hotel, the Graduate Now.
Sure. Yeah,
next
okay.
to the library.
Yeah, cool. Iowa City has a great energy to it, I think. I do miss that, and I know exactly where that is. So, although it's been three years since I've been there, I think. So, hope to get back down there at some point.
Well, if you ever get down, you're welcome to come work with us for a day. We'll let you in on the past presenter charge.
1 million cups. Yeah, awesome. I appreciate that. Cool, guys.
Nice. So, unless anyone else has any questions, I can do our final question. So, does anyone else have anything last minute to ask? Going once, going twice. Okay, I'm going to ask our final question. What can we as the community do to help you?
Yeah, awesome. What we're actually looking for that I've found in other 1 Million Cups communities have been really helpful is building relationships with other service providers for small businesses. So if you know someone who maybe is a small business consultant, or even better, like an operations consultant, we're looking to partner with them. We're starting a affiliate program, a partner program. And so I'm not necessarily even looking to make deals right now, but really just to talk to people and figure out how we can work with them and kind of partner to get a win-win-win situation. So if you know of anyone that you'd be willing to connect us with. Appreciate that. Otherwise, keep doing what you guys are doing as well, and building that entrepreneurial ecosystem. Love that. So,
Awesome. And what's the best way for people to get in touch with you after the
yeah,
presentation?
email is Andrew@Proceed.app. So my first name at our URL.